Every time we think it's Manchester City's year to win the Champions League, they always find a way to screw things up. Which is why today I'll be going over every single Manchester City Champions League campaign since 2011. Okay, jokes aside, Manchester City's history goes pretty far. During the late 1870s, West Gordon, an area in Manchester, was struggling with unemployment. Arthur Connell, a high member of the St. Mark's Church in West Gordon, would set up soup kitchens and relief funds for the local poor. His daughter Anna was also heavily involved in helping the community. However, she was more concerned about the religious and racial conflicts happening in the area. West Gordon was a place of tremendous deprivation with overcrowding, poor sanitation, and poverty plaguing the townspeople. Residents would seek escapism through drinking and gang warfare. In fact, there was one time when the local press reported a 250-a-side fights. Anna hated a town full of men wasting away their lives and believed that the creation of clubs would better the community spirit. A church cricket club had already been formed, however there was no such equivalent for the winter months. So in 1880, Anna and the church wardens William Beato and Thomas Goodby here started a church football club called St. Mark's. 3 years later, St. Mark's merged with Bellevue, another club based in West Gordon. However, the merger lasted just 2 seasons due to arguments between players of the two teams. After the short-lived merger, St. Mark's was renamed to Gordon Association Football Club, while Bellevue changed their name to West Gordon Athletic. Gordon AFC and West Gordon Athletic met again as competitors in 1886, where Gordon AFC got their first FA Cup victory after destroying their opponents 5-1. Unfortunately, that joy of a first was cut short when Newton Heath, now known as Manchester United, annihilated Gordon AFC 11-1. The following year saw Gordon AFC relocate to a railway viaduct in Ardwick after constantly being kicked off playing grounds due to rent increases or landlords. There, the club would also see the construction of Hyde Road Football Stadium, and soon after, Gordon AFC was renamed to Ardwick Association Football Club. In 1891, Ardwick won their first Manchester Cup by defeating Newton Heath in the final. Then in 1893, Ardwick AFC underwent another name change when manager Joshua Parlby noticed that neither club based in Manchester carried the name of England's second largest city. He argued that by implementing Manchester in the club's name, it could provide a sense of belonging to all of Manchester, no matter social status, background, or origin. So in 1894, the name Manchester City was officially born. After a few years, Manchester City was promoted to the First Division in 1899. The Sky Blues then won the FA Cup 5 years later. After another year, at the end of the 1904-05 season, Manchester City were level with Newcastle in points in the league. The Mancs needed to beat Aston Villa on the final day to win the title. Unfortunately, they failed to do so. However, things started to unravel even more when Villa's captain Alec Leake claimed City star player Billy Meredith had offered him £10 to throw the game. Obviously, nowadays you know not to trust a man with this stash, but it was 1905. Meredith was found guilty by the FA, then was fined and suspended for a year. City refused to provide any financial help for Meredith, which prompted him to publicly expose Man City for paying players more than the FA imposed £4 a week. After an investigation from the FA, it was confirmed that Man City had been making additional payments to players. As a result, manager Tom Maley was suspended from football for life, and 17 players were fined and suspended for 2 years. But the FA weren't done. City was then forced to sell their players at an auction where Manchester United manager Ernest Maqwell purchased multiple City talents, including Billy Meredith. The former citizens in the future would become the core of Manchester United's 1908 Football League title-winning team. Funnily enough, though, Billy Meredith would return to Man City years later. The star outside forward was known as the Welsh Wizard and scored 148 goals in 336 games for City. In 1920, a cigarette fire destroyed the main stand of Hyde Road, so City moved to the 80,000 capacity Main Road in 1923. To this day, Main Road still holds the record for the highest attendance for a club in their normal home stadium in English club football. During the early 1930s, with stars like forward Matt Busby and goalkeeper Frank Swift, Manchester City won its second FA Cup, having finished as semi-finalists and runners-up in the previous 2 editions. Then in 1937, the English club won the Football League First Division title, scoring over 100 goals and even going on a 22-match unbeaten run. In the following season, City again scored the most goals. However, this time, they relegated. The Sky Blues returned to the First Division after World War II and then decided to sign German keeper Bert Trautmann in 1949. He was by no means an ordinary signing. From an early age, as part of Hitler's youth, Trautmann was brainwashed into believing the British and Jews were his enemies. During World War II, he even joined Germany's largest air force. However, when he was taken as a prisoner of war in England, Trautmann was surprised by how the English had treated him and grew a liking for the country. The Germans started playing football soon after the war and became an outstanding keeper for St. Helens Town. And after a single season, he caught the eye of Manchester City. The signing ignited a 20,000 people protest, and on top of that, Trautmann also had the pressure of filling in the shoes of legendary keeper Frank Swift. But during the 1956 FA Cup final, Trautmann dove in for a loose ball that saved City from conceding. But because of the collision he made with the full-speed attacker, Trautmann had actually broken his neck. However, due to the citizens having no substitutes left, the keeper continued playing the last 15 minutes to help Man City seal their third FA Cup. Because of his bravery, the German went from a despised villain to a celebrated hero, and by the end of his career, Bert Trautmann was lauded as one of the greatest keepers of all time. After a period of decline seeing the club fall to an all-time low 11th place in the second division, Manchester City had an overhaul and experienced their best period of success throughout the late 60s and mid-70s. Led by the iconic duo of Joe Mercer and Malcolm Allison, the citizens during this period won a second league title in 1968, 2 Community Shields, 2 League Cups, 1 FA Cup, and a European Cup Winners' Cup. Although what made this era of accomplishment even sweeter was when Manchester City defeated Manchester United 1-0 on the final day to confirm their arch-rivals' relegation in 1974. However, in the 80s, City found themselves declining under the chairmanship of Peter Swales, who constantly was throwing money at players that failed to perform. The most notable being Steve Daly. City purchased him for a fee of £1.4 million, an English transfer record. But after finding the pressure far too much, Daly left after just 20 months. The 90s showed glimmers of hope though. Man City destroyed Man United 5-1 in the 1989-90 season. The citizens continued to impress, finishing 5th for 2 straight seasons. Then came the introduction of the Premier League in 1992 with Manchester City as one of the founding members. Optimism continued to rise when after 20 years of little to no success in every department, Chairman Peter Swales was ousted by former City player Francis Lee.
You are done. Fired.
Upon becoming the new chairman, Lee stated, "This will be the happiest club in the land. The players will be the best paid and will drink plenty of champagne, celebrate, and sing until we're hoarse." 2 years after that statement, Manchester City was relegated to the second division. Ironically enough, Lee said he would jump off the Kippax, one of Main Road's stands, if the club was relegated. However, it appears this man is me every night I watch romance anime. No bitches! Lee stepped down in 1998, which was followed by the Sky Blues relegation to the third division. Soon after, financial director David Bernstein became the new chairman. He immediately introduced stricter fiscal discipline to combat the significant amount of debt Peter Swales left the club with due to the crippling wage bill. And after just 1 season in the third tier, Manchester City promoted in dramatic fashion, defeating Gillingham in the playoff final. Paul Dickoff's goal in the 5th minute of stoppage time was the crucial first step to City's revival. The Sky Blues found themselves back in the top flight for the 2001 season after yet another promotion. Unfortunately, they fell right back down at the end of the season. Kevin Keegan took over as manager in 2001 and helped the citizens jump right back up to the top flight. With the likes of Nicolas Anelka, Peter Schmeichel, and Marc-Vivien Foé, City finished 9th, qualified for the UEFA Cup, aka the modern-day Europa League, and ended a 13-year winless run in the Manchester Derby. Marc-Vivien Foé was considered by the fans as the player of the season, and he also scored City's very last goal at Main Road. Unfortunately, that would be his last ever goal, as he tragically passed away just months later. In 2003, Manchester City moved to the brand new 50,000 capacity City of Manchester Stadium. But during its early days, the magnificent infrastructure only ever saw disappointment. However, at the end of the 2006-07 season, it was announced that former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra had completed a €94.8 million takeover of Manchester City. Shinawatra vowed world domination in football and acquired a 75% stake, with City gaining a significant amount of spending power. And this was also despite the many human rights abuse concerns. Well, at least they've been consistent, I guess. The Thai owner's first move was bringing in former England managers Sven-Göran Eriksson. Shinawatra also decided to sign 3 unknown Thai players. Probably one of the most random signings the Premier League has ever seen. To begin the 2007-08 Premier League campaign with this new ownership, City after just 13 matches were placed 3rd. A very promising start, which was followed by City absolutely capitulating. After 3 straight losses at the end of the season, including a now infamous 8-1 embarrassment at the hands of Middlesbrough on the final day, the citizens crashed into 9th. As a result, Shinawatra sacked Eriksson despite cries from fans to keep him and appointed Mark Hughes in June 2008. While this was all happening, Thaksin's former government was facing allegations of corruption, authoritarianism, treason, conflicts of interest, and censoring the press. Thaksin himself was accused of tax evasion. The former PM had been concealing billions by transferring ownership of his money to anyone he knew, even his maids. Then there were the accusations of what was basically insider trading, something that is very illegal, even though many American politicians do it anyways. As a result of these allegations, the Thai authorities froze Thaksin's €900 million fortune, making it practically impossible for him to run Manchester City. And yet again, supporters were victims of another broken promise. Dreams of so-called world domination were now dead. Or so, that's what they thought. Enter newly founded investment firm Abu Dhabi United Group led by Sheikh Mansour, who agreed to purchase Manchester City from Thaksin Shinawatra for a whopping €230 million. In a matter of a few hours, Manchester City had gone from financially unstable to all of a sudden the richest club in the world. They immediately used their newfound stacks and broke the British transfer record on deadline day by signing Brazilian starlet Robinho from Real Madrid for €37.6 million. However, despite their many other acquisitions, the Citizens in their first season as the richest club in the land finished 10th due to inconsistency throughout the season. Their record-breaking signing Robinho also didn't live up to expectations. Nonetheless, in the 2009 summer window, Manchester City continued their enormous spending. They bought defender Julian Lescott from Everton, centre forward Roque Santa Cruz from Blackburn, Aston Villa's Gareth Barry, and the biggest signing, though, that would end up contributing to City's legitimacy was striker Carlos Tevez. But yet again, City found themselves being inconsistent as Mark Hughes was sacked after 7 consecutive draws. He was then replaced by former Inter manager Roberto Mancini, who helped City turn around their season and finish 5th thanks in part to Carlos Tevez's 29 goals. In the 2010 summer window, Manchester City spent a total of $183.6 million on players, including Wolfsburg striker Edin Dzeko, defender Jerome Boateng, midfielder James Milner, Serbia's own Alexander Kolarov, Spanish magician David Silva, Chaos incarnate Mario Balotelli, and the elegant Yaya Toure.
Eleganto! Very eleganto!
With these signings, the Citizens would go on to finish 3rd and win their first FA Cup since 1969. But that feat would mean nothing compared to the 2011-12 campaign, where the title race went all the way to the final day between both Manchester clubs. On matchday 38, Man United played Sunderland and defeated them 1-0. On the other hand, Man City played QPR and found themselves down 2-1 in the 90th minute, needing a win in order to claim the league title. Be that task near impossible as it may be, Edin Dzeko gave the Sky Blues a lifeline. Then came the moment that would forever play in the heads of every football fan in the world.
Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Maqwell. I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again.
Since winning their first league title since 1968, Manchester City have never looked back and constantly find ways to be even more dominant every single domestic season. The Citizens have collected 2 FA Cups, 3 Community Shields, and another 5 Premier League titles. They've also practically branded the League Cup the Manchester City Cup, winning it 6 times since 2014. However, much like Paris Saint-Germain, the club hasn't found that same success in Europe despite spending more than $2 billion on players since Abu Dhabi United Group first bought the club.
Ad time.
This video was sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform that inspires discovery through creativity. There are thousands of courses taught by experts in their fields, and there's practically no limitation to whatever you'd want to learn. I've always been intrigued by After Effects, and there's a great class by Jordi van de Put that skips all of the filler and gets me immediately creating. And if you're someone who wants to get into video editing, the same teacher made a perfect class for Adobe Premiere Pro beginners. I also recently started this class on creative writing by Emily Gold to help prevent writer's block, because let me tell you, it happens quite a lot with this video essay. Considering you can learn a lot of these courses at a university, Skillshare will save you quite literally tens of thousands. And now you can save even more. The first 1,000 people to use the link below will get a 1-month free trial. So go out there and expand your creativity, and a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Prior to the Abu Dhabi takeover in 2008, Manchester City had one single appearance in the Champions League back in 1968 when the competition was formerly known as the European Cup. However, in the 2010-11 season, Man City finally overcame their inconsistencies that plagued previous campaigns. With the help of a strong Roberto Mancini defense led by Vincent Kompany and complemented by Golden Glove winner Joe Hart, the Citizens finished 3rd and qualified for the Champions League for the first time in 43 years. In the summer window that followed, City continued to build their squad. Arsenal were early victims of Man City's transfer terror due to many players feeling a lack of ambition at the club.
Your brother's soul is mine.
Gail Clichy in particular believed Arsenal were no longer a club that could challenge for trophies, so the 26-year-old left-back joined the Sky Blues for $7.75 million. Another Arsenal player joined the Citizens as well.
The mere mention of his name gets me mad. Samir Nasri.
Samir Nasri joined City for $27.5 million and left quite a bad taste in Arsenal supporters' mouths.
Judas! Judas!
City also added defender Stefan Savic from Partizan Belgrade for 12 million and former United midfielder Owen Hargreaves on a free. Finally, the Citizens yet again cucked United for another Argentinian striker, 23-year-old Sergio Aguero. Aguero in 5 years with Atletico Madrid had only one season where he didn't score at least 20 goals. The only notable departure was Jerome Boateng, who joined Bayern for 13.5 million after an injury-riddled 2010-11 season. Hopes were pretty high for Manchester City going into the 2011-12 Champions League. However, they didn't start out well in a group consisting of Napoli and eventual finalist Bayern. Nonetheless, life was brought back into City's European campaign with 2 straight victories against Villarreal. But in their 5th match, Man City's hopes of next round progression were dug into the ground by a man whose jawline was sharper than a Harvard valedictorian's grades. After the incredible title-winning goal versus QPR, for the first time ever, Manchester City qualified for the Champions League 2 consecutive times. From there, the Citizens began to spend like a spoiled rich kid. Benfica's Javi Garcia was considered one of the best-performing midfielders in the 2011-12 season, so Man City acquired their potential game-changing midfielder for 20.2 million. Stefan Savic couldn't adapt to life in Manchester, so he and 12 million were included in a swap deal for defender Matija Nastasic from Fiorentina. City continued to find the best young talents and added 21-year-old Jack Rodwell for 15 million. The young midfielder was considered a prodigy since the age of 16 when he broke into Everton's senior squad. Promising winger Scott Sinclair scored 28 goals in 82 league appearances, which earned him a move to Manchester for 7.8 million. Roberto Mancini decided to bring in 31-year-old right-back Maicon for 3.7 million. The two had previously worked together at Inter. City also decided to obtain a new third-choice keeper in Richard Wright from Preston North End. Departures included one of Abu Dhabi's first signings, Nigel de Jong, who went to Italy to sign with Milan for 3.5 million. Emmanuel Adebayor returned to North London for 6.4 million. However, this time it was to Arsenal's rivals Tottenham. And finally, Man City began their European season with a match against Real Madrid and Cristiano Ronaldo at the Santiago Bernabeu. From minute 1, Madrid went at City's throats and dominated the game. But in the 69th minute, against the run of play, Edin Dzeko shocked Los Blancos. The lead lasted just 7 minutes, but again City found the back of the net through a brilliant Colorado free kick. However, not even a minute later, Karim Benzema helped Real equalize again. And to put Man City to bed in the cruelest fashion, former Manchester United player Cristiano Ronaldo bagged a 90th minute winner. The rest of City's European campaign was pretty shit. In January, Roberto Mancini and Mario Balotelli got into a fight during training. Balotelli's time at City was full of shenanigans, including the failed backheel and the infamous firework incident. So this recent incident was to the shock of absolutely no one. And a couple weeks later, Balotelli was shipped off to Milan for 20 million. And Mancini would see the exit door not too soon after when City shockingly lost to Wigan Athletic in the FA Cup final. The Italian was replaced a month later by Malaga mastermind Manuel Pellegrini. Following an outstanding debut season in 2009, Carlos Tevez slowly fell out of love with football. The main reason was because he was living away from his wife and kids. Tevez had expressed his feelings about wanting to leave Manchester since December 2010, and after multiple windows of failed moves due to demands of both club and player, the Argentine striker departed for Turin to join Juventus for 9 million. Now that Balotelli and now Tevez were both gone, City needed to find a new striker to partner up with Aguero. That's where Sevilla's Alvaro Negredo came in. The Spanish striker scored 26 goals in La Liga during the previous season, which prompted City to sign him for 25 million. City swiped from Sevilla once more and signed 27-year-old Jesus Navas for 20 million. The winger with precision passing produced 79 chances during the 2012-13 La Liga season. The Sky Blues went on to add another 23-year-old striker in Stefan Jovetic from Fiorentina for 26 million. In 2 seasons with La Viola, the Montenegrin international scored 27 goals. After staying with Atleti for 2 months, 32-year-old defender Martin Demichelis joined the Citizens for 4.5 million. However, the biggest purchase of the season was 28-year-old box-to-box midfielder Fernandinho for 40 million. The Brazilian spent over 8 seasons with Shakhtar Donetsk and had plenty of Champions League experience. And with the new players in, came the ones going out. Scott Sinclair, who had just joined from Swansea the previous season, was loaned out to West Brom. Gareth Barry was also loaned out, with the destination being Everton. Maicon's reunion with Mancini didn't turn out to be any fairy tale, as the Brazilian joined Roma on a free after a season of struggling to stay fit. Other free transfers included Wayne Bridge, Roque Santa Cruz, and Colo Torre. For once in the Champions League, Man City weren't thrown into a torture chamber of a group. The Citizens won 5 of their 6, including an emphatic comeback in Munich to advance to the knockouts for the first time ever. The English club then drew Barcelona in the round of 16, where the first leg would be played at the Etihad. Despite the superiority of Barcelona's squad, City had plenty of opportunities to score. Unfortunately, it appears there's a correlation between the name Alvaro and poor finishing. If the If the horrid end product wasn't enough suffering, Barcelona would punish City for not taking their chances and win 2-0. A visit to the Camp Nou a month later would be the end of the road for City's first endeavor in the Champions League knockouts. Manuel Pellegrini's first season with the Citizens provided the team with a significantly better attacking flow. Manchester City went from scoring 66 under Mancini to 102 with the Chilean manager. Yaya Toure was easily Man City's best player in the previous season with 20 goals and 9 assists. And after all this, the club couldn't even bother to send him a birthday cake. Sergio Aguero was becoming a clinical machine right before everyone's eyes, scoring 17 Premier League goals in just 23 matches. His strike partner Edin Dzeko had his best season to date, scoring 16. To begin the window, Manchester City needed some defensive reinforcements, and in came Porto's Eliakim Mangala for a club transfer record of 45 million. Pellegrini considered Mangala to have all the attributes to be one of Europe's finest defenders. But knock knock again, Porto. Manchester City have come to take 26-year-old midfielder Fernando off your hands for 15 million. When Willy Caballero joined Malaga in 2011, he went a club record 480 minutes without conceding a goal. Reaping the benefits of his old club, the Chilean manager added the 32-year-old for 2.5 million to give Joe Hart some competition. After scoring in the great fortress of Kansas City, 21-year-old midfielder Bruno Zuccolini was dubbed by Pellegrini as one for the future. The Argentine signed for 2.5 million. Once again, Arsenal continued to take L after L as longtime right back Bakary Sagna joined the Citizens on a free. Oh yeah, the club also loaned in Frank Lampard. I'm not really too sure why. Departures included Javi Garcia, who joined Zenit for 16.8 million after 2 disappointing seasons. Jack Rodwell turned out to be a complete flop and was sent to the endless void known as the Stadium of Lights. 26-year-old Mika Richards had been playing for City since 2005, but with new competition taking over his role, he was loaned out to Fiorentina. Some players left on a free, including Gareth Barry and Julian Lescott, who 2 years later would flex his new car in response to criticism about his god-awful defending for Aston Villa. The Sky Blues were drawn into a group with CSKA Moscow, Roma, and Bayern for the 3rd time in 4 seasons. A match against Munich was their first test, with Joe Hart making 7 saves. But just when City were about to escape with a massive point away, their former defender Jerome Boateng scored a 90th minute winner. This is since next fixture against Roma started well with an Aguero penalty. However, that was cancelled out by a class chip from Francesco Totti. In their 3rd game at CSKA Moscow, Man City conjured up an early 2-goal lead, and then blew it in the second half. Then during the return fixture, FIFA god Seydou Doumbia terrorized the Etihad, scoring twice to shock the Manx. And after 4 awful performances, Manchester City had dug themselves into a hole, earning just a measly 2 points. Their upcoming fixture was Bayern at home, and if Man City couldn't win, they were more than likely doomed. Things kicked off promising though, with Aguero drawing a penalty and Bayern's Mehdi Benatia being sent off. However, in a span of 5 minutes, Manchester City's defense again would let the whole team down. It was now 2-1 to Bayern. But wait, did someone say 2-1? That scoreline was all too familiar to Sergio Aguero, who proceeded to turn God mode on, scoring the equalizer in the 85th and then the winner in the 90+ first minute. His hat-trick single-handedly kept Man City's hopes alive, and thanks to a draw between Roma and Moscow, all City needed to do was win in Rome. And the Citizens did just that, winning 2-0 despite being without captain Vincent Kompany. During the round of 16 draw, City, for their amazing tenacity, were given Barcelona, who not only had Lionel Messi, but now Luis Suarez and Neymar.
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
However, before the knockouts, moves were made in January. Under Mancini, Matija Nastasic was exceptional in 2013, being named City's Young Player of the Season. Sadly, after Mancini left, he fell out of favor under Pellegrini, who sent him on loan to Schalke. City's acquisitions of Alvaro Negredo and Stefan Jovetic were as successful as my time in college. So the Sky Blues tried again with Swansea's Wilfred Boney for 32.2 million. The 26-year-old Ivorian had 17 goals in the previous Premier League campaign and had a current tally of 9 in 20 games. The first leg against Barcelona and Manchester saw Luis Suarez give the Blaugrana an early 2-goal lead. However, in the second half, Sergio Aguero brought one back for the Citizens, only for Pablo Zabaleta to give away a penalty. Luckily for the Manx, this was pre-Euro 2016 and Joe Hart was still world class. Barcelona would still go on to win 2-1 though. In the second leg at the Camp Nou, Man City needed to score 2 or more goals against the competition favorites, and this task proved to be way too difficult for the Citizens. Joe Hart did all he could with his 10 saves, but Ivan Rakitic would eventually score in the 31st minute. Later on, Aguero missed a penalty which pretty much summed up the night for Man City, as they were eliminated by Barcelona in the round of 16 for a second consecutive time. In a campaign marred by injuries and players' underwhelming performances, Manchester City went trophyless in 2014-15. The citizens a few months later would take out their frustrations on the Vietnamese national team. On the bright side though, Aguero did have his best season to date, scoring 26 goals. Speaking of strikers, Alvaro Negreira's time with City was over as he joined Valencia for 28 million. Yes, that's right, Manchester City somehow made a profit on him. Another striker on his way out was Edin Dzeko, who got sent on loan to Roma with an option to buy after an abysmal 2014-15 campaign. 19-year-old Ronnie Lopez came through the academy but had limited chances with the Sky Blues. As a result, he moved to Taxhaven FC for 12 million. Another youth product in 20-year-old Karim Rekik joined Marseille for 5 million. After a 6-month loan, Schalke were more than impressed to trigger the option to buy Matija Nastasic for 9.5 million. Transfer bust Scott Sinclair was finally let go as he joined Aston Villa for 3.5 million. Stefan Jovetic, since joining Fiorentina, hadn't found his form, so he was loaned to Inter Milan. Speaking of Fiorentina, after one season with La Viola, Mika Richards joined Aston Villa on a free. Another player that left for free was Swiss Army knife James Milner, who joined Liverpool. Then came the acquisitions. Manchester City spent 208.4 million on players in the summer, the most of any other club. Ruben Sobrino and Florian Lejeune were purchased for a total of 850k. Both were loaned out to Spanish club Girona, a member of City Football Group. Having seen out 3 strikers in one window, City looked to the future and signed 18-year-old Enes Ünal from Bursaspor, who now became the youngest player to score in the Turkish Super League at just age 16. The Sky Blues then approached a homegrown teen and 18-year-old Patrick Roberts from Fulham for 7.2 million. After leading Aston Villa to the FA Cup final, captain Fabian Delph promised he would not leave the West Midlands club. Just 6 days later, everyone found out that was a complete lie.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
Following the flop signing of Eliakim Mangala, Man City tried at the centre-back position again and signed Nicolas Otamendi from Valencia for 44.5 million. Alongside playing like an absolute he was arguably the best defender in the 2014-15 La Liga season. Now, if you thought the Fabian Delph transfer caused a stir, you have not seen anything yet. 20-year-old winger Raheem Sterling became the talk of the town when he turned down a 100k pound per week contract from Liverpool. This ignited fury and criticism in supporters as they called Sterling a money-grabbing 20-year-old. Following the contract incident, Sterling then pulled a PR disaster by featuring on the BBC for an interview, while the season was still going on. Although his intentions were to clear the storm, it only made things worse. The situation got even more toxic when the agent got involved. About a month later, Sterling told Liverpool he wanted to leave despite still having 1 year left on his contract. Following the transfer request, the winger was linked with the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Arsenal? But in mid-July, it would be Manchester City confirming the signing of Raheem Sterling for 63.7 million. The 20-year-old Englishman became the second most expensive British player behind Gareth Bale. Finally, City's biggest purchase was the ginger sensation Kevin De Bruyne. De Bruyne, a former Chelsea player who refound his joy at Wolfsburg, created 112 chances in 2014-15, the second most of anyone in the top 5 leagues. This opted Manchester City to purchase his services for a whopping club record fee of 76 million. Man City were in a group with 2014-15 finalists Juventus, Europa League winners Sevilla, and Borussia Mönchengladbach.
You can't be, you gotta be f***ing me.
The citizens' first match was a 2-1 loss to Juventus at home where the Italians scored all 3 goals. However, they turned their fortunes around with 2 straight wins, both snatched at the death. The Sky Blues then made it 3 consecutive wins with another victory in Seville. Unfortunately, the win streak came to an end when Juventus defeated the Sky Blues 1-0 in Turin and reclaimed the group lead. In the final match of the group stage, City hosted Mönchengladbach where David Silva drew first blood with a thunderous strike. Oh, but what a surprise. Even with the new summer reinforcements, City's defense is still useless. Thankfully, Raheem Sterling would pull a Steven Bergwijn and score 2 goals in a span of 2 minutes. Wilfred Boney then put the game to bed, and with Juventus bottling against Sevilla in their last match, Manchester City snatched the group on the final day. For once, the knockout draws would be kind to City as they drew Ukrainian club Dynamo Kiev. But before the knockouts commenced, it was revealed that Manuel Pellegrini would be leaving the Sky Blues at the end of the season. None of this fazed the citizens though, as they took care of business in Kiev, winning 3-1. A month later, City played out a dull 0-0 draw to advance to the quarterfinals for the first time in the club's history. Oh shit. Manchester City drew PSG for the next round, and in just 17 minutes, the back line would be the bane of City's existence. Don't worry though, Joe Hart was there to bail out the Manx for about the 6,000th time. In the 37th minute, Kevin De Bruyne slotted one home and made it 1-0. And then this happened. During the second half, Adrien Rabiot gave PSG the lead. Paris Saint-Germain's backline would pay him back by giving their best impression of the French police before the 2022 Champions League final. With 2 away goals, City were now just 90 minutes away from the semis. PSG threw their jabs in Manchester, but Joe Hart was having absolutely none of it. Then in the 76th minute, Kevin De Bruyne tormented the Parisians once more with a brilliant curler and confirmed Manchester City's spot in their first ever Champions League semi-final. Next was Real Madrid, but luckily for City, Los Blancos would be without Cristiano Ronaldo for the first leg, and Kompany was now back from injury. The two teams played out a physical 0-0 draw, with Joe Hart making 2 important saves to maintain an unlikely clean sheet for Manchester City. The second leg would see the return of Ronaldo, but hopes were still high for City. Hopes, however, died, with Manchester City being more uninspiring than your average suburb in the United States. Sergio Aguero in particular didn't even have a single touch in the opposition's box. Then late into the match, Gareth Bale's shot deflected off of Fernando into the net, which sent Real Madrid to the final. Despite reaching the semi-finals of the Champions League for the first time ever, many perceived City's successes as quite underwhelming. For how much the club was worth, it wasn't exactly converting into that high-end success everyone expected. City's 3-1 loss at home to eventual 2015-16 Premier League champions Leicester City was a prime example. The entire Man City starting unit was purchased for $316 million, while Leicester's totaled just $26 million. The grace period for squad building had ended a long time ago, and City weren't performing optimally. But just like deadline day 2008, things were about to change. Enter Bayern Munich's manager Pep Guardiola, who announced he was leaving the Bavarians at the end of the 2015-16 season. Immediately, Pep became the hottest property on the market, with clubs like Manchester United and Chelsea frantically trying to persuade the Spanish tactician to join them. But in the end, he opted for Manchester City in February 2016. Guardiola was considered one of the most successful managers at the time, having only lost 19 of his 239 league games. He was also Barcelona's most successful manager, winning them 14 trophies in 4 years. And during his time at Bayern, Pep won the Bundesliga every season. Going into the 2016 summer window, Man City sold Edin Dzeko for $11 million after Roma triggered his option to buy. City's striking recruitment missed the mark again with Wilfred Boney, as the Ivorian was sent to Stoke City on loan. 35-year-old Martin Demichelis was, to put it simply, finished. He joined Espanyol on a free. Florian Lejeune did not make a single appearance for the citizens and was sold to Eibar for $1.5 million. Samir Nasri was not in Pep's plan, so he was loaned to Sevilla, where absolutely nothing that would contribute to his early retirement would happen. Another player in Pep's mind was one of City's most expensive flops, Eliakim Mangala. He was loaned out to Valencia. Then came the biggest shock. Joe Hart had been essential to City's success for the past few seasons, but Pep didn't see it that way. The Spaniard wanted to play a different system, one that was very foreign to the abilities of the English shot stopper. As a result, Joe Hart was practically exiled and sent to Torino. To replace the City icon, Pep brought in Barcelona's Claudio Bravo for $18 million. But the new manager didn't stop there. Despite their efforts to improve the back line, City were still very reliant on Glassman Kompany. So they turned to 22-year-old centre-back John Stones of Everton and acquired his services for $55 million. The fee made him the second most expensive defender in the world, behind David Luiz. Christ almighty, what the was this time period? 20-year-old Leroy Sané had previously helped Germany reach the semis of Euro 2016 and was a big part of Schalke's attack. Pep Guardiola, in his own words, said Sané would be an exciting player that supporters would enjoy watching. Manchester City acquired the young winger for $52 million. City then grabbed another winger, Nolito, for $18 million. The Spaniard was brilliant for Celta Vigo and had actually been given his Barcelona debut in the 2010-11 season by Pep Guardiola. After being key to Borussia Dortmund's rock and roll days under Jurgen Klopp, İlkay Gündoğan joined Man City for $18 million as well. The Mancs also purchased 19-year-old midfielder Alexander Zinchenko from Russian club Ufa. Pep Guardiola, after hearing his rap single, immediately loaned him out to PSV. Another club part of the City football group was Australia's Melbourne City, who saw 25-year-old Aaron Moy join the Sky Blues for free. He was then loaned to Huddersfield Town not too soon after. Pablo Mari of Spanish club Gymnastic was purchased for $2.5 million, and you guessed it, he was immediately loaned out. City did the same business with 24-year-old keeper Geronimo Rulli of Maldonado, who was purchased for $4.7 million and loaned out to Real Sociedad. The same treatment was given to Marlos Moreno, who was acquired for $5.5 million from Atlético Nacional. So with the new manager and crest, it was time to prove that last year wasn't any fluke. Oh god, it's Barcelona again. City started strong with a 4-0 win versus Mönchengladbach thanks to an Aguero hat-trick. However, the form dipped with a 3-3 draw in Glasgow, followed by a dismantling at the hands of Lionel Messi during his bleach arc. The citizens would get their revenge in the return fixture though, as City defeated Barcelona 3-1 in Manchester and took the lead in the group. They then proceeded to the bed in their last 2 games. In January, Pep decided to offload another disappointing striker in Stefan Jovetic to Inter for 13.5 million. With the Montenegrin's departure came a 19-year-old kid who had 18 goal contributions to help Palmeiras win the Brasileiro in 2016. That kid was Gabriel Jesus, who signed with the Citizens for 32 million. And after a 6-month loan with Sociedad, Geronimo Rulli joined the Spanish club permanently for 7 million. The round of 16 would see Manchester City play Monaco, however they were yet again without Vincent Kompany. Nonetheless, the Citizens started brilliantly, opening the score through Raheem Sterling. However, Monaco would respond just 6 minutes later with a diving header from Radamel Falcao. 17-year-old Kylian Mbappe introduced himself to the stage minutes later by blasting the French club ahead with 2 away goals. Monaco were later awarded a penalty in the second half thanks to just your average Nicolas Otamendi tackle. Fortunately, Willy Caballero was there to save the attempt. Red-hot Sergio Aguero 8 minutes later made Monaco rue their missed chance. But once more, the City backline committed treason and Falcao gracefully chipped the keeper. 10 minutes later though, Super Sergio Aguero scored his second in spectacular fashion. Then, the 77th minute, John Stones poked home City's 4th to take the lead, and after coming from behind twice, Leroy Sané finished off a chaotic match. Going into the second leg in Monaco, City had a 2-goal cushion.
Sliding through his Stones to block it, still is crossed! Overlap now from Mendy, the left back, cutting back the cross, Fabinho!
What did I even expect anyways? In the second half, now that Monaco had the away goals advantage, City woke up with an urgency to score. Finally, in the 70th minute, after constant barrages, a little bit of luck helped them retrieve the lead. But not even 5 minutes later, Monaco retook the lead off a set piece. City's attacking magic couldn't save them this time, and they were eliminated. Coming off a trophyless season that wasn't bad nor great, mid if you will, Kevin De Bruyne was proving he was worth every penny with his 18 assists in 2016-17. Of course, the one benefiting the most from his immense injection of creativity was Sergio Aguero, who scored 33 goals in all competitions. And for once, City didn't miss on buying a striker, with Gabriel Jesus impressing in just 10 appearances, scoring 7 league goals. Manchester City made over 90 million in sales during the summer window. Bruno Zuccolini, who was once considered for the future, never was able to show off his talents in Manchester. After years of being treated like a Serie A youth prospect, Zuccolini joined Hellas Verona for 1.25 million. Following 2 seasons at Girona and Alaves on loan, Ruben Sabrina was sold to Alaves for 2 million. 30-year-old Joe Hart was loaned out once again, this time to West Ham. Plenty more OG signings joined suit. Samir Nasri, after 176 appearances for the Citizens, was sold to Turkish club Antalyaspor for 3.5 million. Jesus Navas never really worked out either and moved back to Sevilla on a free. Alexander Kolarov and his famous left foot departed for Italy to join Roma for 5 million. Fernando never really impressed, so he moved to Galatasaray for 6 million. And Gael Clichy's time in Manchester was coming to a close as he joined Başakşehir for free. Willy Caballero also left on a free and joined Chelsea to become their backup. After a truly forgettable season, Nolito returned to La Liga and joined Sevilla for 7 million. Aaron Moy was key to Huddersfield's promotion to the Premier League during his loan spell, so the Terriers did not hesitate, breaking their transfer record to acquire the Aussie midfielder for 9.1 million. Wilfred Boney was not scoring goals for City nor Stoke during his loan spell, thus the striker returned to Swansea for 13 million. 20-year-old Enes Unal, another player victim to City's profits and vibes movement, was sold to Villarreal for 14 million. 21-year-old youth product Kelechi Iheanacho showed promise, scoring 12 goals in 2 seasons with a very limited number of starts. This attracted Leicester City, who decided to buy the Nigerian striker for 27.7 million. Then came more of Pep's renovations to the squad. You could have probably put one of the random Thai players from 2008 in goal and they would have done a better job than Claudio Bravo. Okay, he wasn't that bad, but his poor performances were still enough for City to immediately try again at the keeper position and sign 23-year-old Ederson from Benfica for 40 million. City were also in need of new fullbacks. Danilo didn't impress much during his time at Real Madrid, but the Sky Blues decided to throw 30 million to sign the 26-year-old right back. After knocking Man City out of the Champions League in the previous season, Bernardo Silva joined the Citizens for 50 million. The 22-year-old midfielder with his outstanding vision helped Monaco win Ligue 1 with his 11 goals and 12 assists. The Sky Blues continued their wrath on Monaco, acquiring 23-year-old Benjamin Mendy for 57.5 million. The French left back was considered by City's sporting director as one of the world's most promising fullbacks. Yeah, about that. 27-year-old pacey right-back Kyle Walker had his soul withering away at trophyless Tottenham, so City came in to save him and bought the Englishman for 52.7 million. Then came more youngsters. 18-year-old Luka Ilic for 2.5 million, 24-year-old Olaran Waju Coyote for 4 million, and 19-year-old Douglas Luiz for 12 million. All were loaned out immediately. City breezed past their Champions League group, and Sergio Aguero made history, becoming City's all-time top scorer. Then in January, Manchester City decided to break the bank for Athletic Bilbao's Emerick Laporte and purchased him for for $65 million. The 23-year-old defender had been in high demand for quite some time and was rated as one of the finest defensive prospects in Europe. In February, the Citizens would take on Basel in the round of 16 and blow them out in 50 minutes to win 4-0. A month later came the second leg where 17-year-old wonder kid Phil Foden made his Champions League debut. City completed 978 passes and lost 2-1.
How'd he do that? No idea.
In the quarterfinal, Manchester City were up against a Liverpool side rejuvenated by Jurgen Klopp, and during the first leg at Anfield, it appeared the entire City backline had left to get milk, and Liverpool scored 3 goals in just 31 minutes. And if you thought that was bad, Manchester City failed to get a single shot on target throughout the entire 90 minutes. The Citizens didn't fare any better in the second leg either. After going up 1-0 early on, Pep Guardiola was ejected at halftime, and with it, the rest of City's chances of advancing.
Salah. Mane.
Pep may have gone trophyless in his first season, but he bounced back by breaking the English top flight record for the most points in a single season. A lot of that came down to how ruthless City's attacking had become. Sergio Aguero had another 30-goal season, and Raheem Sterling finally showed his true potential, scoring 23 in all competitions. Gabriel Jesus and Leroy Sané weren't too far off either, and this all wouldn't have been possible without the creativity of Kevin De Bruyne and bald David Silva. However, there was one ongoing issue that would see an icon leave the club. Since the beginning of their relationship, Yaya Toure and Pep Guardiola have never been able to see eye to eye.
Every day I wake up and I hope you're dead!
Back during Yaya's days in Barcelona in 2010, he claimed that Pep would always give him strange answers to his questions. He added that Pep pretty much ignored him up until the Man City offer came in. And when the power couple were back together in Manchester years later, things only got worse. After starting 22 Premier League matches in Pep's first season, Yaya Toure was reduced to one single start in 2017-18. Despite this, Toure claimed he was as good or even better than the player starting over him. Followed by that, he then accused Pep of having problems with Africans wherever he went. Yaya's agent then chimed in with the prediction that an African curse would prevent Pep from ever winning the Champions League again. So following all this, Yaya Toure would leave as a free agent. Yaya's legacy is weirdly underrated for how majestic he was in his prime. The Ivorian could run up and down the pitch as a box-to-box midfielder without breaking a sweat. And every time Toure went forward, he'd use his technique to gracefully waltz past defenders and find teammates with his laser vision passing that not even Jameis Winston could get his hands on. Along with his departure, though, came many more. Homegrown 21-year-old Jack Harrison was loaned to Leeds United. Alarenwaju Coyote signed with Shakhtar Donetsk for $3 million. Former youth product Burson Celina was purchased by Swansea for $3.4 million. Joe Hart was one of the best in his position just 2 years ago, but after being banished by Pep, he was a shell of his former self. The 31-year-old, as a result, would join Burnley in hopes of rejuvenating his career under another bald manager. Pablo Maffeo, another academy graduate who was forced to run the City football group gauntlet, was finally let free and joined Stuttgart for $9 million. Speaking of more neglected academy graduates, 23-year-old Jason Denayer was sold to Lyon for $10 million. The defender had actually made an appearance for Belgium before Man City. In fact, he actually never played for Man City. Angus Gunn also didn't make a single senior appearance and was shipped off to Southampton for $11.3 million. Wait, holy shit. It's a youth product that actually got playing time, and he wasn't sacrificed to the loan sharks? Maybe just one day, he'll break into the senior squad. 19-year-old Brahim Diaz was sold to Real Madrid for $17 million. In terms of acquisitions, it was a pretty slow window for the reigning Premier League champions. 19-year-old Daniel Arzani was picked up from Melbourne City for $800k and was immediately loaned to Celtic. 21-year-old Philippe Sandler from Pek Zwolle was purchased for $2.5 million. And finally, after 4 failed bids from the Citizens in January 2018, 27-year-old Riyad Mahrez joined Manchester City for $67.8 million. The Algerian winger was a vital component in the miraculous Leicester City title-winning team of 2015-16. His final season with the Foxes saw him score 12 and assist 10. After losing their first match against Lyon, Man City strolled through their group with ease, going unbeaten. And in January, the Sky Blues decided to bring in 2 more players. 21-year-old Ko Itakura from Kawasaki Frontale for $1.1 million, who was then loaned to FC Groningen, and 18-year-old Ante Palaversa from Hajduk Split for $6.3 million. The Croatian under-19 captain was loaned back to Hajduk right after. During the round of 16 against Schalke, the Citizens came back from 2-1 down late on to defeat the Germans in the first leg. Now, do not be fooled, folks. It may look like Schalke were still in this tie. However, in the second leg, the Citizens saw the German underdogs' hopes like a newly built Margaret Thatcher statue and pissed all over their aspirations. Next was a return to the quarters against Tottenham in their new Toilet Bowl Stadium, and in just 13 minutes, City were awarded a penalty. Unfortunately, Aguero's attempt was saved, which pretty much summed up how City were never at their best the whole match. I mean, if your midfield is being bettered by a double pivot of Harry Winks and Moussa Sissoko, you might want to rethink everything really. Oh, and by the way, for some reason Pep left De Bruyne on the bench because of a tactical decision. And then came the biggest shock of the night when Son Heung-min violated Fabian Delph and scored the winner in the 78th minute. The second leg was just 8 days later, and luckily for the citizens, Tottenham star forward Harry Kane was deemed out with an injury. Furthermore, with City's 12-game win streak at home, a turnaround looked almost imminent as the Sky Blues drew first blood through a lovely curler from Raheem Sterling. With the tie now level, City's defense immediately started their bottling campaign for the night and conceded 2 Tottenham away goals in just 7 minutes. However, Man City was not going to go down without a fight. Bernardo Silva just a minute later equalized, and now City needed 2 more goals to advance. Raheem Sterling cut the deficit 10 minutes later in classic City fashion. Then near post god Sergio Aguero unleashed the anger of his first leg mistakes, while Kevin De Bruyne had his 3rd assist of the night. It was now 4-3 on aggregate, advantage City. Damn, crazy idea, but you know, maybe he could have started in the first leg. However, in the 73rd minute, Tottenham added another layer to the tie thanks in part to Fernando Llorente's elbow. And all of a sudden, City needed to score again. Nonetheless, the Sky Blues continued their relentless pressure, and finally the moment came in the 2nd minute of stoppage time with Raheem Sterling's hat-trick. The entire Etihad exploded into joy and relief as City were off to the semi-final.
He's listening to Massimiliano Irati and it's been disallowed.
At the end of the 2018-19 season, Manchester City said farewell to one of their greatest ever captains, Vincent Kompany. Despite the Belgian's entire body being made out of glass, especially his hamstring, he was always consistently someone the team could rely on in the back. And without his leadership, City would be nowhere near as successful. When Vincent Kompany first signed for Man City back in 2008, he was regarded as one of the brightest central defenders in the world. And he sure lived up to that. Manchester City managed to win everything but the Champions League. Perhaps he was right. The Mancs began their shopping spree by swapping the underwhelming Danilo and 65 million for Juventus' João Cancelo, also known as the second coming of Dani Alves.
Dani Alves has said that you were his best ever coach, and to quote him, he said it was better than sex, his experience of you coaching him. I'm just wondering what you thought of that.
I prefer the sex.
Manchester City also noticed their midfield lacked someone with the proper authority over the third. So that's where 23-year-old defensive midfielder Rodri from Atletico Madrid came in for 62.7 million. The English club continued to deepen their defensive depth with the signings of both 22-year-old Angelino and 20-year-old Pedro Porro for 12 million each. Porro was quickly sent to Valladolid on loan. 24-year-old Zach Steffen was bought for 6.82 million from Columbus Crew, and you guessed it, the American keeper was loaned out to Dusseldorf. The citizens also spent 1 million on Gamba Osaka's Ryotaro Machino and forwarded his services to Hearts in Scotland. And in one of the more interesting moves, 34-year-old Scott Carson was loaned in as a third-choice keeper. City would see their fair share of departures as well. After being purchased and sent straight to Girona for 2 years, Douglas Luiz was sold to newly promoted Aston Villa for 16 million. Speaking of Villa, Fabian Delph was a massive liability, so City threw him into the cash-spending void known as Everton. Oh look, another youth academy graduate. I sure wonder what's gonna happen to him. Another player purchased and then sent straight on loan was Pablo Mari, who was sold to Flamengo for 1.7 million. The now 26-year-old would stay there for a bit and then contribute to my suffering years later. Formerly Man City's record transfer in 2014, Eliakim Mangala never lived up to the hype as he joined Valencia on a free. And of course, just like every season, the club loaned out numerous players, but you're insane if you think I'm going over any of them. In the group stage, it was smooth sailing for the citizens as they went unbeaten in all 6 games, with some god-awful looking kits. No moves were made in January, however, UEFA made a move of their own on Manchester City by banning them from the Champions League for the next 2 seasons. The ban came after the club was found to have violated financial fair play rules when they falsely inflated their sponsorship revenues. Fortunately for City, they had enough money to buy the Avengers if they were lawyers, and the ban was lifted in July.
I want to apologize to all of you for what I did. It was very wrong and I am very sorry. I just would like to move on and lead a normal life. You know, get a job and a wife and change my ways. And I hope this apology impresses you, even though my grandmother made me do it and I don't really mean it.
In the round of 16, Man City met a Real Madrid side still struggling to find an identity now that Ronaldo was gone. But prior to the first leg in Madrid, Pep decided to go mad scientist mode and leave Sterling, Aguero, David Silva, and Fernandinho all on the bench. With no out-and-out striker, Pep Guardiola decided to use Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne as alternating false nines in a very cautious approach to the game. And this master plan worked really well as City were doing an exceptional job of suppressing posing any Madrid danger. Unfortunately, the back four had its own master plan and City conceded against the run of play. Although luckily for the Sky Blues, they had Jesus and the Ginger God. Within just 5 minutes, Manchester City turned around the match and earned 2 precious away goals in the process. The second leg of the tie would be postponed until August due to COVID-19 lockdowns. Nevertheless, City took care of business after a masterclass from agent Rafael Varane. Man City's next opponent was Lyon, who recently shocked everyone by defeating Cristiano Ronaldo and Juventus in the previous round. The citizens were massive favorites, but much like 2018-19, Pep Guardiola decided to overthink things again for absolutely no reason. The Spaniard decided to leave a majority of his creative assets on the bench. To make things worse, he went with a 3-man backline consisting of Aymeric Laporte, Eric Garcia, and defensive midfielder Fernandinho. To put this into perspective, Pep hadn't used anything besides a back four up until this point. And what was the result? An extremely lackluster first half for Man City's attack and a 23rd minute Maxwell Cornet goal for Lyon. Fortunately, in the second half, with the substitution of Riyad Mahrez, City started to look more threatening. Their efforts finally paid off with Kevin De Bruyne equalizing in the 69th minute. The Sky Blues continued their mission to find a winner, but then, against the run of play, Moussa Dembele scored past Ederson to retake the lead for Lyon. Nonetheless, with 5 minutes to go, Gabriel Jesus squares a tap-in for Sterling. Just a minute later, City would rue their missed opportunities and Dembele sticks a dagger to the heart. The bold fraud strikes again. To begin the season, Manchester City would say farewell to the ever-so-talented Spanish magician himself, David Silva, who cucked Lazio to join Real Sociedad at the very last minute. Silva will be remembered for his unique skill set that allowed him to manipulate defenses and help City practically walk the ball into the net. Other free transfers include one of Pep's first ever signings, Claudio Bravo. And then came the transactions that involved cash. 23-year-old defender Tosin Adarabioyo joined Fulham for $1.6 million. During the peak of his time at City, Nicolas Otamendi made 210 appearances, helping the citizens win back-to-back league titles. However, throughout the last couple of years, his age was showing and the Argentinian defender was starting to become a liability. So off the outlet went to Benfica, where he'd vowed to quote-unquote defend the Portuguese club to death for $15 million. Leroy Sané was a huge part of City's domination as well, but an injury kept him sidelined throughout all of the 2019-20 campaign. His absence proved to be a huge loss, with the Mancs constantly struggling for any consistency in their final product. With Sané in the final year of his contract during injury, Pep was hoping to hold on to the winger, but instead the German wanted a new adventure, and at just age 24 he joined Hansi Flick's Bayern Munich for $60 million. Having lost a clinical winger, Man City rushed to sign a new one, and luckily for them, a certain dumpster fire of an organization happened to be holding one of Spain's brightest young prospects. So City splashed the cash and acquired 20-year-old Ferran Torres for $33.5 million. Bournemouth was also a club that needed to sell quickly now that they had relegated to the second division, and in came City running in to snatch the Cherries' prime defender Nathan Ake for $25 million. Now, as you've probably noticed, Manchester City loved to spend copious amounts of money on defenders. In fact, they spent over $400 million on defenders alone over the last 6 years. And although some acquisitions were more successful than others, without Vincent Kompany's leadership, the backline was a mess in Europe no matter what. The team's struggles in 2019-20 were evident after the club captain's departure, and they desperately needed someone who had the guidance of Kompany. As a result, City were linked with Napoli's Kalidou Koulibaly. The Senegalese international was considered one of the best defenders in the world. However, just like every other year, the highly demanded defender would never actually move out of Naples. So instead, the citizens approached Benfica's captain Ruben Dias for $68 million. The signing of Dias posed many questions from supporters, especially knowing who else City were linked with. Was a defender from the Portuguese leagues really going to be the answer to City's leadership woes? Oh yeah, the Sky Blues also made some low-profile signings, but you already know what's going to happen to them. The citizens were featured in a group with Porto, Marseille, and Olympiacos, where they won all but one game. Manchester City would then play Borussia Mönchengladbach in the last 16, where Bernardo Silva and Gabriel Jesus gave the English club a 2-0 win in the first leg. The job was then finished in the return fixture thanks to early goals from a City side playing with no natural striker. Next in the quarterfinal was another German club, Borussia Dortmund. 18 minutes into the first leg, Kevin De Bruyne opens the score for City. 18 minutes later, Jude Bellingham takes advantage of an Ederson mistake and oh wait, it's a foul for some reason. Yeah, that's not a foul. In the second half, Erling Haaland makes Ruben Dias his bitch, but can't convert the chance. Phil Foden had the perfect opportunity to add to City's tally, but the finish was Cavani-esque. Then the 83rd minute, a beautiful Haaland flick finds Marco Reus, and Dortmund get their equalizer, but more importantly, their away goal. But just 6 minutes later, Phil Foden redeems himself and scores the game winner. The second leg a month later had City ahead, but everything changed when Jude Bellingham finished brilliantly in the top corner. Dortmund now had the advantage on away goals. This then led the Sky Blues initiating Operation possession score a goal with no natural striker on the pitch. After multiple opportunities, a penalty was awarded to the English club and Riyad Mahrez blasted it in. Phil Foden then put a dagger in the heart of the tie with a spectacular goal. The semi-final draw produced a bout between Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain. Both had met in 2016, but now were considered more elite than ever before. In just 14 minutes of the first leg in Paris, PSG took the lead through a Marquinhos header and already City were chasing the game. Phil Foden had a grand opportunity off a PSG mistake, but unfortunately pulled an Mbappe 2020. Nonetheless, City kept fighting and then finally equalized with the help of PSG's classic communication and team chemistry. 7 minutes later, Riyad Mahrez completed the turnaround thanks in part to whatever this is. City won 2-1 and the two clubs faced again in snowy Manchester for the second leg. However, PSG weren't as lucky in the snow like they were in the previous round and Riyad Mahrez killed off the Parisians, sending Manchester City to their first ever Champions League final. Oh god. He f***ing did it again, didn't he? Already, as you know, City's attack was limited due to the fact that they have no natural striker. Pep then decided to sabotage and suppress his attack even more by opting to start Raheem Sterling on the wing over Phil Foden. Mind you, Sterling wasn't exactly having that good of a Champions League campaign. But wait, there's more. Pep Guardiola in 60 games only once opted to play without either of his defensive midfielders in Rodri or Fernandinho. But in the biggest game of Manchester City's history, Pep went all attack-minded midfielders with City's top scorer in the league İlkay Gündoğan playing as a holding midfielder. Which sure, might work if Gündoğan had a more defensive midfielder alongside him, but yeah, you're on your own, buddy. Pep for absolutely no reason chose to fix something that wasn't broken. In fact, it was something that helped City controlled the midfield better than any other team in the world. As a result of these two changes, Manchester City were far from their best. Not even Chelsea's best defender, Thiago Silva, being subbed off early on helped, as N'Golo Kanté ran circles around İlkay Gündoğan all game long. Things only got even worse in the 41st minute when German James Charles dribbled around Ederson and gave Chelsea the lead. City would never be able to recover from the hole they dug themselves into and were laid to rest. The bald fraud strikes once again. With no reliable finisher holding back City for the past 2 seasons, people thought that this would be the year that Manchester City would purchase a brand new top striker. Aguero was that clinical finisher, but because of injuries, his appearances were significantly limited, especially in the 2020-21 season. Technically, there was also Gabriel Jesus, but Pep mainly played him on the wing. But speaking of Sergio Aguero, he left to join Barcelona on a free after 10 years with Manchester City. At his peak, Kun Aguero was one of the most unstoppable goal machines you had ever seen in your life. The Argentine is currently Man City's all-time top scorer with 260 goals, and his minutes per goal ratio was also the best of any Premier League goal scorer ever. The club also recently erected a statue in his honor, that way the striker's accomplishments would never be forgotten. Wait, is that Toni Kroos? One aspect of City's game that did improve significantly though was their defense thanks to Ruben Dias's leadership. The Portuguese defender even managed to make John Stones a competent defender. One centre-half that left though was Eric Garcia, a youth product that actually played more than 6 seconds for Manchester City. The same, however, cannot be said about 22-year-old Lucas Nemeka, who moved to Wolfsburg for $8 million. After spending the last 3 seasons on loan with Leeds, Jack Harrison finally permanently joined the Bielsa bunch for $12.8 million. 24-year-old fullback Angelino was signed by City in 2014, loaned out 4 times, bought by PSV, bought back by Man City, and then was loaned out again a year later to Leipzig. Finally though, the Spaniard found himself a home at Leipzig for $18 million. City didn't make many additions, but they still spent ungodly amounts of money. Jack Grealish had just come off a brilliant campaign with Aston Villa where he scored 6 and assisted 10. As a result, his performances attracted heavy interest from the citizens. The media will tell you the negotiations were difficult, but in reality, once Jack Grealish heard the words Champions League football, yeah, it was over for Villa.
Yet another of your allies falls to me. When he dies, I will claim his soul.
Grealish joined Manchester City for $117.5 million, a record-breaking transfer fee for a British player. Striker Harry Kane back in May had informed Tottenham he wanted to leave. The Englishman was one of the most prolific goal scorers in the Premier League with 165 goals in 243 appearances. And as City needed a new out-and-out striker, they pounced on the opportunity like a predator with its prey. However, Harry Kane still had a few years on his contract, so it was all up to chairman Daniel Levy whether or not Kane could leave. Levy also used the fee for Grealish to his advantage and demanded no less than $150 million for Harry Kane. City stepped out of negotiations soon after and ended up never filling in the hole up top. Oh, also, Lionel Messi was on the market for free at one point.
Messi's your friend. You might give him a call and see if he wants to join us and have a fun time.
Messi?
Yeah.
Would be nice, huh?
The Sky Blues drew into a group of death consisting of Club Brugge, RB Leipzig, and PSG. In the Citizens' first match, they scored 6 goals to offset Christopher Nkunku going God mode. Then came a visit to Paris, where City dominated, only to fall 2-0 because they couldn't finish for shit. Nevertheless, the Citizens bounced back, winning 3 straight matches, including a 2-1 victory against PSG in Manchester to seal another group win. In January, Ferran Torres was noticeably unhappy at Manchester, so he moved to Barcelona for $55 million after just a season and a half. Now, before I mention anything about the knockouts, it should be noted that there is no away goal rule anymore. City initially drew Villarreal in the round of 16, however, due to an administrative error, UEFA redid the draws. After the redraw, Man City was matched up against Sporting CP, where in the first leg, the Sky Blues annihilated the Portuguese side 5-0. A 0-0 draw followed in the second leg, with Manchester City advancing to the next round to face Atletico Madrid. In the first leg, Atleti's manager had one single plan: sit back, defend, and do absolutely nothing else. Atletico had 0 shots throughout all 90 minutes, however their park-the-bus defending was very effective in limiting the quality of City's chances. However, Kevin De Bruyne only needed to slip in behind once to slot home Manchester City's winner. A week later was the second leg at the Metropolitano, and things got fairly intense. Both teams had plenty of chances in a match that felt more like a Mario Strikers game, and after 88 minutes of constant aggression from both sides, all hell broke loose with one cynical challenge. A massive scuffle in one corner would ensue, resembling the days of West Gordon in 1876. Oh, hey look, it's Stefan Savic. Once things finally calmed down in the 11th minute of stoppage time, Atleti had a last gasp chance, but luckily Ederson was there to make a ginormous stop. A second consecutive semi-final visit would see Manchester City play Real Madrid. Los Blancos managed to reach the semis by coming back against both PSG and Chelsea, but that didn't mean shit to the Sky Blues as they catapulted to a 2-0 lead in the first 10 minutes. With no Casemiro as anchor for Real Madrid, City continued to expose the opposition's shambolic defending but couldn't finish their chances. Then in the 32nd minute, Karim Benzema brought the Madridistas back to life with a brilliant finish. However, in the second half, a pinpoint Fernandinho delivery met Phil Foden's head, who made it 3-1 to the Citizens. But despite their defending being worse than Amber Heard's lawyers, Real Madrid weren't going to give up that easily. 2 minutes later, Vinicius Jr. inherited the spirits of Joga Bonito and scored on a fantastic solo run. Bernardo Silva had other things to say though, as he paralyzed Thibaut Courtois with a breathtaking finish. Riyad Mahrez nearly sealed it with his delightful gliding as Peter Drury almost climaxed on commentary.
Mahrez! Oh!
Even though City's defense had become more unbreakable than ever before, they somehow found a way to shoot themselves in the foot like old times. However, after a game that went back and forth for all 90 minutes, Manchester City won 4-3. The two met again 8 days later at the Santiago Bernabeu, where everyone was expecting fireworks after what they had witnessed in the first leg. Throughout the first half, both teams had their chances, albeit Madrid the better ones, but neither of them could convert. Madrid right at the beginning of the second half should have finally drawn the tie level, but again Vinny Jr. failed to hit the target. After that chance though, Manchester City started to gain a hold of the match, and in the 72nd minute, Riyad Mahrez blasted it near post, making it 5-3 to City on aggregate. Jack Grealish nearly scored 2 more for the Citizens, but was stopped by Madridista heroics. However, with a 2-goal lead on aggregate, Manchester City would secure their second trip to the Champions League final.
Towards Benzema. And smuggled in! It's Carvajal's cross! Rodrigo!
How did you this up? Going into extra time with all the momentum on Madrid's side, City gave away a silly penalty and Benzema converted. Man City never recovered and for yet another season failed to win the Champions League.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
It's now been over 10 years since Manchester City qualified for the Champions League under their new ownership. And even though billions have been pumped into this club, they still have yet to reach the ultimate glory. It's not even a culture problem like PSG. Manchester City make very smart transfers. They don't care necessarily about big names. They're in the right direction. Nowadays, every new Champions League season, Man City are considered favorites to win it all, only for them to crash out in the craziest ways. Whether it's awful defending, a lack of a finisher, or a genius tactician that overthinks it on the biggest of stages. Speaking of no striker though, Manchester City finally put the world out of its anticipating misery and bought Erling Haaland, a man who scored more goals than he's played games. So now that Man City have finally filled in the hole that's been a massive burden to them, it's pretty much inevitable that they win it all next season. But if they can't, we'll all know exactly why. And so that is probably the longest video essay I've done ever. Let's hope I don't have to do this for at least a few months. I feel like a good thing to say probably at the end of these videos, if you've actually reached this point, is a big thank you for watching this whole movie at this point. But yeah, till 2 months later for the next video essay, I guess. But of course, a massive shout out to all our patrons, including Jason TD, Janos Balas, Florian Lengo, Milioa009, Alex Rod, Amin Suomes, Arnulfo Martinez Jr., Siloto, Daniel Ortiz, Darkwolf476, Edgar AS, Francisco Hernandez, Joseph Bonfante, Juan Leras, Kev FM, Mika Deichmeister, Nguyen Din Min Tang, Rory Byrne, The Motor Drive, Tomicus, Triple GK, Vanilla Mexican 17, Victor, Ariel Floor, Chris Damasceno, Declan Malloy, Emmett Shea, Lewis, MX Weeb, Patrick Barley, President Pulisic, Tom Little, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you'd like, follow my Instagram if you want, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 15,000 there, and of course, you can follow my semi-active Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.
Raheem